Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly pumped to have you here today because, well, we are about to dissect an absolute masterclass in digital strategy. You know, personal finance is one of those things that touches literally every single one of us, right? But for decades, it honestly felt like this super exclusive club with its own complicated, almost secret language. Well, today, we're looking at a platform that totally flipped that script. We're going to break down the massive success of the personal finance website, The Balance. We'll look at exactly how they took this huge, kind of dusty vault of legacy internet content, completely revamped the tone, and essentially built an empire just by focusing relentlessly on two groups, the average consumer and the millennial generation.
So, here's how we're going to break this down. We've got 4 key pillars to go through today. First, rebranding legacy internet. Second, targeting the average consumer. Third, engaging the millennial audience. And finally, traffic, revenue, and growth.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, rebranding legacy internet, moving from a general interest site to a highly targeted vertical. To really appreciate what The Balance is today, you kind of have to understand where it came from. Believe it or not, it actually grew out of the financial content originally written for About.com. And if you were around the internet back in the day, you remember About.com. It was this massive, general interest internet relic that launched way back in 1996. Okay, so fast forward to September 2016. The parent company rebrands as Dotdash, and they make this huge decision to slice up that generalized behemoth. They relaunched the financial vertical as a completely standalone powerhouse, and they called it The Balance. And wow, the acceleration after that was wild. By October 2017, they hit 17 million unique users. And by August 2020, they were sitting at number 2 among all financial news sites.
The sheer scale of that 2016 launch was just staggering. Like, they didn't just start from scratch putting up a Hello World post. The Balance was the second of 5 brand new vertical sites launched by Dotdash. And because they were pulling from those deep About.com archives, on day 1, September 6th, 2016, they already had more than 34,000 pieces of content ready to go. I mean, think about the power of that. It's like flipping a switch and instantly having a massive footprint. They took this huge existing vault, brought in 70 contributors to update and maintain everything, and boom, they were off to the races. But as we all know, just having content isn't enough, right? It has to be the exact right kind of content.
Which brings us to section 2, targeting the average consumer by simplifying the complex.
I want you to really think about this for a second. How do you actually make finance appealing? I mean, for the everyday person, personal finance is incredibly dense stuff. It's usually packed with jargon, super intimidating charts, and complex math that honestly leaves the average consumer feeling totally left out and underserved. So how in the world did The Balance solve this? Well, they actually started with the visual experience.
It's fascinating because when Dotdash launched its other vertical brands, they went all in on these graphics-heavy design schemes. Lots going on. But for The Balance, they deliberately took a step back and chose a much more restrained design. They realized something crucial. When you're dealing with people's life savings, their mortgages, getting out of debt, you really don't want flashy distractions. You want clean, calming clarity. It's serious stuff. So they literally stripped away the visual clutter. They wanted the design to reflect the true weight of financial topics, basically creating a clean, quiet space where the average consumer could just breathe and actually focus on the information.
In fact, their CEO, Neil Vogel, explicitly laid out this goal. He said they wanted to serve an underserved market, the average consumer. Their mandate was so simple but so effective. Explain difficult personal finance topics in simple terms. And hey, if you're watching this explainer right now, there's a really good chance you are exactly who they were thinking about. We all have to manage money, but let's face it, we aren't all Wall Street bankers. The Balance recognized that creating highly accessible, no-nonsense content for the everyday person wasn't just a nice thing to do, it was a massive, completely untapped opportunity.
Okay, let's keep going and move into our third section, engaging the millennial audience through a crucial tone shift.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. Right around the time they launched, a massive 60% of the readership for The Balance were actually women. Think about that for a second. By purposely dropping that hyper-masculine, super aggressive Wall Street jargon you usually find on finance sites and focusing purely on accessible, clear, helpful explanations, they instantly struck a chord. They resonated with a deeply engaged audience right out of the gate.
On top of that, roughly 50% of their readers at launch were millennials. This is where their content strategy just absolutely shined. The entire platform was deliberately written with a tone specifically designed to appeal to younger generations. Now, to be clear, they still covered all the heavy-hitting financial topics that matter to everybody. Stuff like retirement, taxes, buying a house. But it was the tone that shifted. They spoke directly to a generation that was just figuring out this whole adulting thing and trying to navigate their personal finances. And the best part? They did it without ever talking down to them. It just goes to show that when you align your tone perfectly with an underserved demographic, they won't just visit, they will flock to your platform.
And this focused, audience-first approach, it wasn't just a hit with everyday readers. It was actually critically acclaimed by the media and the finance industries too. For instance, The Balance took home the 2019 Communicator Award of Excellence for the best financial services site. Plus, the incredible leadership driving this whole vision got some major recognition. Their general manager, Lauren Silbert, was named one of the 2019 Top Women in Media by Folio magazine, and then the very next year, she was named a Huro Future Female Leader by Yahoo Finance. Honestly, they were sweeping up awards just by doing exactly what they promised, making finance genuinely accessible for everyone.
Which leads us nicely to our final section: traffic, revenue, and growth. Or, as I personally like to call it, the business of less.
So did all this feel-good, simplified content actually pay off? Well, absolutely. This strategy directly translated into massive, measurable business growth. When The Balance launched back in 2016, they started with a really solid base of about 6.5 million unique users. But just look at this trajectory. By October 2017, so barely over a year later, they skyrocketed to over 17 million users. And by August 2020, they were consistently reaching 19 million unique US viewers every single month. That means their unique monthly users nearly tripled in just 4 years. If you ever needed absolute proof that simplifying finance and speaking clearly to the average consumer drives traffic, well, there it is.
But here's the million-dollar question. How do they actually monetize all that new traffic? This might be the most fascinating strategic decision of the entire story. Like a lot of sites, The Balance is supported through display and performance-based advertising. But at launch, Dotdash took a step that seems completely counterintuitive to most internet businesses. They actually reduced the total number of ads on the site by a staggering 35%. They actively chose to respect the consumer's visual space, sticking to that incredibly clean, restrained design we talked about earlier, instead of just cashing in on banner ads.
The whole philosophy behind this wild move was summed up perfectly in a bet they made at launch. Fewer, better ads will attract a larger audience. It's brilliant, right? By sacrificing short-term ad volume and resisting that totally common urge to plaster every square inch of the screen with blinking banners, they put the user experience first. They bet big on long-term audience trust and loyalty. And clearly, as we just saw with their user base tripling to 19 million, it was a gamble that paid off in spades.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, thought-provoking question. By simplifying the complex and truly respecting your audience's time and their visual space, what seemingly impenetrable industry could you disrupt next? The Balance completely proved that you don't need to be the loudest or the most complex voice in the room to win. Just by finding an underserved audience, like millennials and everyday consumers, shifting your tone to be genuinely helpful, and having the sheer discipline to do less on the screen, you can absolutely dominate a market. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible strategy. Keep your eyes open for those complex ideas just waiting to be simplified, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.